Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2. 1 2. Hello. Mic test. 1 2 3 4. Mic test. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Testing 1 2. 1 2 3 4. 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 Hey, Bune.
How's it going?
Hey. Hey,
Hi.
Dersu. Hello, Dersu. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Bune, I like your background there. You're in space.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, Dersu, this is Bune. Bune, Dersu.
Hi.
Hi,
Nice to meet,
Durso. Nice
nice
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you. Katie, I know you said no AirPods, but what about AirPod Pros?
Oh, wow. Those sound great.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, those sound really good. Let's see
Hang
here.
on.
Getting.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, Andres.
Hang on. I got to get all my technical business happening here. I don't know. Well, hey, everybody.
How's it going?
I'm okay. How about you? This is not working, though. Hang on. So I don't have anything but these AirPods, but you know what? I've been.
You sound great though, which I'm really surprised. Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what,
They sound
because
great.
I think it's my other microphone that's catching this.
Oh yeah, it is. Kim, hey. Hello.
Good morning or afternoon there.
It's morning in LA. Yeah, Dersu and Bune, they're both in the States. I think, Bune, you're on Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Andres is in Berlin. Kim, you're in Ibiza. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and speak with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm so just delighted to see all of your faces. Yeah, it's been such a crazy time in the world. And I just really wanted to connect and, kind of find out like how everybody's doing. And, there's like so much different information going around, and it's been very interesting doing these talks and finding out like the reality versus the sensationalism of what's happening. And yeah, I just want to find out from my friends like what's happening. So we're going to go around the room, and ladies first, and just kind of talk about your background, like how you got into dance music and kind of what you're doing now. So like I said, ladies first. So I don't know, Bune or Kim, you want to go first?
Do you want to go first?
Sure, I guess I'll go. So hi, my name is Bune. I spell it slightly differently for my producer name and production name, but it is my real name. But yeah, I got into this probably almost a decade ago, I guess, at this point. And up until maybe mid of last year, I was, for a few years, the label manager and A&R director for Afro Acid and Afro Deep and Jack Tracks. And I started my own label last year. And so now I have my own vinyl / digital label, Vault Wax. And I'm also a DJ and producer, but that's sort of, yeah, where I'm at.
And she's being very modest. She's thrown some of the biggest parties on the East Coast in Boston. She had this amazing night club. She actually went to Berghain, and she was like, you know what? I want to bring Berlin to the States. And that's what she did. And she recreated it. And it was just mind blowing. You can read about it later. I'll send you guys links. But thank you so much, Bune, for being here. Kim, can you want to go?
The question was, how did I get started? Yes. So I came to Ibiza, which is where I now live, when I was 16, and I fell in love with the island. And then from there, I found dance music, and then decided I wanted to be a writer. So I started to apply to all the magazines, and I first was a journalist for the dance music magazines like Ministry and Mixmag and Music. Then I went on to do PR for music for a really long time. So I started at record labels, and then I started my own PR company in 2005 called Rebel Butterfly. And I looked after lots of techno and house DJs and parties around the world as well. And then 3 years ago, I think I quit, and I transformed it all into yoga, and I do yoga and sound healing. And I also I do events called Cosmic Pineapple, which is actually where I met you, Kat, via Andreas, the first year of Cosmic Pineapple at Pikes. So I still have my little toes dipped into dance music, because it's always it was a family, like a big time for me growing up. So that's how I still keep my toes dipped in. And the parties mix the music and the magic side of Ibiza. So it has healers and creativity, and then it has the ravers as well. And I really like that whole mix of everyone coming together as my creativity. So yeah, okay.
And I love so much. I met Joe from Little Joe from Kim, and we've become really good friends here in LA. And she runs a healing center called The Lair. And I just love that, how, taking kind of like that community and that spirit of togetherness and bringing it into a different form, more, I guess, like daytime, like healing. And it's such a beautiful thing. And Cosmic Pineapple is cosmic. I really hope that you keep doing it, because that is it's like, it's like a wellness rave, like all day long into night, like all these different booths and healers and people and DJs and dancing and talks. And I mean, it's just, it's like you can go get Reiki over here and then you could go, you know, over there and dance to Josh Wink. I love it. It's so cool.
Yeah. I started doing the festivals as well with it. So taking Cosmic Corners to festivals, which is one of my absolute favorite things to do, because I'm past the raver stage now, but I love being around ravers. So I'm there with my crystal bowls and cosmic cards, and I usually have people there with me, and then all the ravers come in and go, what's this then? And then we're like telling them all about crystals and cards, and they love it. And it's, yeah, it fascinates me. So I really hope this will start moving again, but it will in its own time.
Absolutely. And we're definitely going to get into that because it's all the question we want to know. Let's go over to Berlin. Andres, can you give us kind of your background and how you got into dance music and kind of what you're currently doing now?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually. Obviously, Kim and Katie, we know each other. So I'm a creative manager, A&R, and co-founder of a company called Lost Art Music. I'm in Berlin. We have an office in London as well, where my business partner is. I've been in the music industry for quite some time. My roots are actually more from a studio engineering production background, which I did for many years. I'm originally from LA. I've been in Berlin well over 10, 12 years now. I was heading global artist partnerships for Native Instruments for 10 years. And left the company maybe now 2.5 years ago to launch this creative management business for artists and brands. So we look after people like Davide Squillaci, we have Booker Shade, Uner, Henry Bergman. We have brand clients such as Bands in Town that we do all kind of label and artist partnerships for in Europe. And yeah, so we're just kind of now in the thick of this situation now, having to juggle a lot of different things for our artist clients and find solutions very, very quickly, which isn't obviously so easy, but I'm sure we'll get into that in the course of this conversation.
100%. And Andres has a lovely wife, Jules. She's a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she's just such a light and beautiful being. And I've had some really fun and interesting just dinners with like Andres and Todd Terry and all these different characters, and you know, Rufus and Evita, and like I love hanging out with Andres. And he's like, come on Kat, let's go over here. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, we're gonna go hang out with Guy Gerber, let's go see what that fucker's up to. It's just so fun with him. You never know what's gonna happen. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
For you always. Come on.
Oh, thank you. Let's go to LA. Last but not least, Dersu, what's going on over there? Hey.
Just keeping it real. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Dersu. Yeah, I'm from Montana, super small town in Montana. It's funny because I was thinking about like my journey of dance music, and it really started like DJing high school dances. I remember we used to have 2 5-disc players with like the first, you know, mixers, and in the middle, and we would be putting the slider would come out and you'd like put the CD in and then like mix, you know, and I remember DJing our prom. So it's like really started with just like loving music, and it's always been kind of the journey for me. I'm honored to be surrounded by very talented people and humbled as well. You know, I think like, for me, it's always been luckily a way for me to play. I haven't had, you know, I haven't relied it on as my first business. My guess core has always been in design and creative direction, and I'm a creative director and do work with Vice and make some films on the side and do stuff. But it's all connected, as we all know. Like everyone sort of can do everything. I feel like we sort of transition into these new things. It's like whatever you're excited about at that time. And for me, I would say like my journey right now is similar to like the idea of trying to take a piece of Berlin to a place that maybe didn't have that piece. I saw that with the West Side of Los Angeles. I think, you know, there was people like Marcus Wyatt and individuals who were doing dance music on the West Side for a long time. But it also, you know, I think I fell in love with sort of like a little bit of that darkness and a little bit of the weirdness that I felt, and the loneliness, you know, and I remember when I came back from living in Berlin for a short stint, my friends were like, "Are you wearing eyeliner? Like, you've totally, your complexion has changed." Yeah, I really train. Sorry, train going by. Whoa, my camera's getting crazy. Sorry, crazy. Okay, my love for music, I think, has like brought me into tying in the worlds of film and production, as well as like throwing parties on the west side of LA. We've been throwing a thing called Night Cause that Katie got to play, which was awesome. We had the headlining DJ choose a cause that they felt connected to, and then we donated 100% of the proceeds to that cause every party, and those were amazing. It felt really like a special little spot that we've built. And obviously, yeah, everything's on standstill now. So I'm just kind of at home, like just getting weird. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And it's very much connected. I really feel that, like, I mean, for me, like, I started out in New York City and, you know, working in fashion, going to FIT and doing like my background was basically in branding and marketing. And I connected the two, that it was really important to have sick branding so that people would like look at your stuff. You know, I mean, I was working at Pier 59 as a basically as a slave, an intern, but you know, and I was watching all these amazing creatives like Steven Meisel and, you know, Marco Glaviano do these pictures, and just realizing like how important for artists it was for people to see this like beautiful image or this like powerful image, whatever it might be, and that translated into them like actually listening to your music. So for me, like, I learned from the very beginning how important like fashion, creativeness, videos, like all of that stuff kind of went together. So thank you so much for being here, because I'm curious to know what's going on over there, because that's you know, media is a big part of all this. So I want to go around the room and just kind of open it up to finding out, first of all, like, you know, just get a baseline for what's going on in your different parts of the world. Andres, I'd like to start with you, and then probably go to Kim. I know that today, I think in Ibiza, they have finally opened up after many weeks, 7 weeks of quarantine or something, but in Los Angeles, we're still in quarantine till at least the 15th. So I'm just curious, like, what's the reality, Andres, of what's going on over there?
What's the reality? It depends on what part of town you're actually in, I think. I mean, right now, everything, it feels kind of like things are getting a little bit back to normal, only in the sense that, you know, people are going outside, you know, I mean, you know, it's Berlin, right? You're stuck inside all winter. And I mean, this whole thing happened the weekend it got warm, which was already insane. We didn't have a hard lockdown like Spain or Italy did, of course. So, you know, I'm a big cyclist. So, you know, I welcomed the fact that I had bikes and I could just get out of town. But I did have to go through several parts of the city. And I was actually pretty shocked that first weekend when, you know, they announced, yeah, schools had closed and everybody was home from work. And, you know, people were in the park. It was, everybody was on holiday all of a sudden, you know, which was, it's, in my opinion, very offensive. And then Merkel came on TV and, you know, delivered this pretty, I would say, to the point speech, and I think people took heed of that. So you saw that things had changed after that pretty quickly. But you know, throughout the weeks, I mean, the Germans are pretty good about this. You know, I mean, we're in an area where there's a lot of families and kids, so I think everybody's kind of adhering to the rules for the most part. You know, when there's a line for the market, it's one in, one out, you know, at the bakery, all that kind of stuff. But they have now loosened it up a little bit, where I've seen a few cafes open again, for example. And, you know, they're letting people now sit at a certain distance apart and all that kind of stuff. But it's been really interesting to see how, yeah, I mean, Berlin's, you know, I think you've all been here. So, it's, you know, it's thousands of cafes. On one block, you have 4 or 5 cafes. You know, that was like the first thing I asked myself, how are any of these people going to survive? But they have opened up, you know, so they are doing this takeout thing for the most part, and that's caught on very quickly. So in terms of community and my immediate surroundings, it feels, I don't want to say normal, but people are outside, you know, people are communicating at distance, trying to adhere to the rules. But you also notice a real kind of sense of community here. And I've tried very, very hard, obviously, to stay put as much as possible. The only time I really get out is when I bust out on the bike and do, you know, day trips, but that's kind of in the forest and in nature, and, you know, try to keep fit and sane that way.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. In Los Angeles, you can't go into a store unless you have face mask. And yesterday I was at the bank at the ATM machine, and this woman came up next to me and she had a face mask, and it kind of freaked me out. And I told her, I was like, "I'm sorry, ma'am." And she's like, "Oh, it's okay. We're not used to this." But yeah, it's definitely been, it's a trip. Kim, what's going on in Ibiza? Like, are you guys out today? I think I was talking to Alex from Acid Mondays, and I think he said that today you guys are out finally.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really intense because obviously we're part of Spain. So I live in the north, so it's not that much different for me. I'm really in the countryside, and I've got nature around, so it's not super different. But we are now allowed to meet people. Me and my friend kind of did like a secret meet up yesterday, and it's quite funny. You like the rebels in Ibiza were like coming out like day four. But yeah, they're just starting to open up, like the same thing as Berlin, I guess, but nothing was open. And if you're caught driving out, the police would stop you, ask you where you're going. We have to show them our receipts. And if you're too far away from your home, they ask you questions. But for the most part, everyone's been pretty well behaved. I was thinking, because it feels like it's close to the end now, but we're still kind of uncertain. I was thinking, it feels like one of those really, really long trips that, you know, you're past the midway point and you're kind of like unsure of when it's going to end, but you know it's gone past the most intense moment. And I feel also like I've got really used to it. I like being inside and not having to go anywhere. It's really nice. So it's been quite interesting.
I totally understand that. I'm like an extrovert introvert. I'm like, yay, no traffic. Yeah, and it's very interesting, like just the whole season being closed. We were talking to the editor in chief of DJ Mag Spain, and we were like, what? That they're open, and he's like, no, he's like, if the Olympics are, I guess the Olympics were canceled or whatever, then the season's canceled. So I'm curious to know what the vibe is and what, you know, you kind of think of that once, you know, we get into the
Okay.
conversation. Dersu or Bjorn, do you guys want to kind of touch on that? What's going on in your hoods?
Sure, I can go. Yeah, I mean, the shelter in place order, I think, was lifted Thursday at midnight. So, you know, people are kind of going about doing, you know, whatever. The larger parks are a little more packed in the area. So this is Atlanta. And yeah, it's a little bit disconcerting how many people are not wearing face masks, because that's actually I've read a few studies that if carriers who don't know they have COVID-19, so yeah, if carriers are wearing a face mask, just them wearing a face mask reduces the transmission by a ton. And if everyone is wearing face masks, then I think the transmission probability goes down to like 1.5%, versus if someone who's a carrier is not wearing a face mask and another person has a face mask, it's still 70% probability. So the fact that there are crowds gathering and there's already like a second wave on the way pretty surely for the city, yeah, I'm staying inside as much as possible. Luckily I have a little bit of outdoor space I can go to, so getting some sunshine.
It's good. Yeah, my friend in Brenham, Germany, Bremen, I think I'm saying it right, but he said that they came out of lockdown and now they have to go back into lockdown because it was lifted too soon, and now they're going back into quarantine. So yeah, I mean, it's, nobody knows, you know, it's weird. What's happening in Venice, or Sue? I mean, I know like Venice and the east side of LA are totally different planets.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten really lucky. Like, you know, my sister lives in Koreatown, and it's a really different world down there. You know, I think you're much more visually, you're seeing what's happening, and the people that are struggling have been impacted very quickly. You know, people that were already living on the street, for example, it's become very challenging for them, where, you know, you had restaurants and places that had food that they were giving away, or systems in place that have been stressed. And so now, you know, you can really feel it. In Venice, it's like, kind of, I hate to say it, but it feels a little bit like everyone's on vacation in a similar way, but also very cautious, very respectful. Everyone's giving each other distance. You know, you don't go anywhere without a mask. Like, even people on the street, when you're walking, they like walk around each other. You know, it's also very beautiful in some ways. Like, and I feel blessed. And I honestly, if I was struggling right now, I would probably want to like punch the screen at somebody saying this kind of stuff. And so I say that very sympathetically to people that are struggling right now. For me, I feel really lucky. I still have work. I'm still full-time at Vice. So we're like, you know, the media landscape has definitely changed. We're like releasing these COVID packages, which essentially are like video and media that we can create using selfie video and like Skype, you know, Zoom capture and things like that. And we're really trying to think of like how to tell stories that still feel relevant to people. Our viewership is really high still. But like all of our media partners, a lot of the marketing budgets have gone into like keeping people employed in their, you know, for example, like we had a big partnership with Levi's, and Levi's pulled out and has allocated all their money to their employees, to keeping everyone employed, which is amazing, you know. And I think there's like that part. So it's a little scary. And I see big companies all of a sudden lay off their entire staff like overnight. So I think we're kind of walking on eggshells a bit. But there's also the beautiful parts of like riding my bike, you know, and seeing families playing catch. And like usually on a Friday night in LA, it would be like mad stressful. There would be thousands of people like trying to get home. Everyone's honking at each other. The streets are packed. But now it's like no cars. People are playing catch in the front yard. People are like barbecuing from a distance. You see like two tables and they're like, you know, distance from each other. And so a lot of it is like very beautiful for our city. It's become a bit of a small town. But I also know, you know, like with Musically and production wise, like from what I can see from the mayor and the, you know, our governor, is that they're not going to be opening clubs potentially until 2021 is what I've heard. So it's very real for people. And I think, yeah, I don't want to ramble anymore, but yeah, I'm seeing like a lot of different mixes, obviously.
Yeah, 2021, that's also kind of the feel of everything. Like, I don't think Coachella is happening in October, but, you know. Andres, I noticed a couple of people in Berlin were posting things that clubs were starting to open up there. And I'm just curious, like, I mean, yes, like if you want to maybe touch on that, but also kind of like how, if your business has been impacted, or how you guys are maybe shifting, or some kind of like, understanding of like what you're experiencing.
Well, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of speculation and there's a lot of uncertainty, of course, around this whole clubs, touring, events, travel, you know, how's this all going to unfold? I mean, our business has definitely been hit. You know, the primary revenue stream for any of the artists that I mentioned before is touring. And you know, one thing for me, just having been in this business for so long and having also come from the artist end, it just was a real wake-up call for me, because I was like, Jesus, you know, when that touring thing is broken, and so many, you know, let's be real about this. I mean, so many electronic music producers have been forced into DJing simply because that's the only way they can make money. You know, then on the other side of it, now all of a sudden we're faced with a new dilemma, which is, okay, you know, that's temporarily been put on hold. And then you start opening the hood on the other, you know, revenue streams that are coming through. You look at streaming and in dance music, and it's a disaster in comparison to, you know, other music genres and hip hop or pop or whatever. So there's a lot of talk right now, you know, internally for us, just in terms of shifting gears and strategic goals, you know, over this year. I mean, Darcy, as you say, you know, there's a positive side to it as well. So the immediate thing, that shit is, yes, you know, revenue streams, tour cancellations, the financial losses is a real big hit. And I think, you know, right now we're still in this phase where everybody's kind of scrambling. But I think it's going to get really real very, very soon, because of this fact that, you know, we're at the mercy now of the government. And as much as Berlin is a very liberal place and supports culture, you know, I mean, I'm in touch with Berghain and the people that run Watergate and all the institutions here, you know, and there's already smaller clubs that are shutting down. They're not going to be able to you know, overcome this. And it's a scary time for promoter, you know. So again, the new normal, who knows? I don't want to say too much because, again, I've been very cautious about, you know, I mean, everybody's got an opinion and, you know, there's so many different views going on, but it's hard to say. You know, I think we need to just wait a little longer to see how this plays out before, you know, we make these concrete kind of statements. But I can definitely say, yeah, right now, you know, for us, it's very much about shifting gears. And, you know, we were fortunate enough when I left Native Instruments, and I said to my partner, John, you know, well, what does this company that we're about to launch really look like? And we always said, okay, in terms of an artist profile, we want to work with people that have multiple creative outputs, because that was the interesting thing for me, that, you know, art, music, all different types of creative projects can collide now and become very interesting. And, you know, management for me is about juggling all these different types of opportunities rather than just one, you know, one business. So from that perspective, it's been actually really amazing. I mean, similar to, you know, maybe a lot of you as well. I mean, I'm traveling all the time. You know, if I look back in the last 10 years, it's insane how much, you know, I've been flying around, and this has actually given us all an opportunity to sit down and really look at, okay, you know, what is it that you're doing and what is the purpose of you doing it? And I also think this whole period will, you know, I think a lot of people that maybe, you know, don't really have the calling to do certain things will fall off as well. You know, I think this is a kind of purge on multiple levels, and, you know, it is kind of survival of the fittest within your own business, you know, your own self as well. I don't mean that just from an industry perspective. So, you know, it's a time of reflection, and I think that that's something I've really welcomed. You know, I've had very in-depth conversations with all the people we work with, from the artists through to all, you know, the whole ecosystem, and we're all trying to obviously figure this out together. And, you know, we are in this together. You know, there's so many interdependencies that you really become aware of when something like this happens. You know, it's not just, you know, the club, it's their staff, it's their whole organization. You know, it's the venue, it's the summer, it's the flying, it's everything. So all of a sudden, you know, we're, you know, I think, you know, we all take this freedom for granted in many ways. And all of a sudden now this has kind of disappeared for a minute. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting process, I think, to see how this all manifests and comes back together. I personally think I chose to take a really positive attitude towards all this. And as much as the financial loss has been very difficult, I mean, we've had to give up our Berlin office, for example. That's why I'm at home now in my studio. And we had to sustain London because we had a commercial lease. But things like that, you know, how do we cut overheads to survive this whole period? So we're definitely feeling it. But at the same time, it's giving us opportunities to have deepened conversations with our artists about, you know, okay, let's actually do meaningful things. And what do those things look like? And maybe also it's a time to take a little bit of risk, you know, which I also think is a good thing. I think especially, you know, being in this whole kind of DJ space, it's been interesting for me simply because I've always kind of wondered why things have become very kind of cookie cutter. You know, there's very few people taking risks anymore. And I get it. I understand. It's like, you know, you get hired to do certain something and people have a particular expectation, and the higher the numbers go, you have to deliver that. But at the same time, that's, you know, this, when things get back to normal, whenever they are, you know, it's not going to be like it was. It really won't, because this is going to affect the economy. It's going to affect, you know, the whole ecosystem on so many levels. And not to say that it won't come back even better and stronger and whatever, but it's going to be a process. And I think, you know, we need to accept that right now. So I think it's a lot of shifting gears right now, you know, bolstering new revenue streams. You know, we're looking at publishing, how to build streaming audiences, doing a lot of strategic planning for the rest of the year. What if things don't recover by Q4? You know, what happens if October rolls around and everybody's like, no, there's no gigs, there's no festivals, there's no nothing. We had a massive Ibiza summer planned. You know, this was something that we worked on all year last year, and that's kind of now very uncertain, of course. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from you, Kim, about what you think is going to happen for the summer.
Yeah, Kim, what's happening with the clubs over there? I know we got the information that of course the closing parties were closed, but I mean the opening parties are not happening, but I'm just curious, like how are is there any conversation around like are they gonna stay open? Are they gonna close? Like I'm sure the smaller places. I'm just curious.
I kind of got no idea. I know that Pikes is, if I'm honest, but what I've been hearing is that it's not a good idea to have big, like it's very unlikely that big crowds are going to come together. So what I've been wondering and envisaging is like, somewhere like Pikes where I do the events, that they can be less than 500 people. So maybe it could be something like, smaller venues of under 500 people. And actually, I was really thinking about something the other day, and like when Ibiza started, you could go to a party and you could swing a cat around you and you can just really dance because you have all this space around you. And like the last few years, it's got very like, oh, squished, can't move, can't dance, can't, and it's not exciting for me as well. So, and I do wonder if like maybe something could happen where they put down the capacity, they make things a lot simpler and bring back the magic a little bit, because I think as Andreas was saying, I think a lot of this is really good for reflection on like, yeah, what is our purpose? Why are we doing this? What is important? Like, so it's so in different ways. I don't, but a lot of the clubs aren't going to open until X dates. There are talks that maybe August, something will be moving. I was kind of hoping maybe July. I don't know why July, but yeah, no one really knows. It's really interesting, but it might. I also have this feeling that it's going to bring back. It's just going to bring back the magic a little bit more, and it's going to bring back that kind of interesting, magical, cosmic thing that we love about Ibiza. So who knows? But yeah, it's going to come better. I think I don't know. I just look at everything on a consciousness level, and Earth has just got so up here, and we've had to contract before we expand consciousness, let's say. And this is what's going on. We're like being forced to look at all of our stuff inside. And I just trust that Mama Earth knows what she's doing. Like we're just like little fleas on her. So yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I think that, what happened is the imbalance was happening so drastically that the nature and the cosmos, they were like, nope, we got to come back here. Like I feel like humans have abused the earth so much that there was no other choice but to cleanse and to come back. And if you look like, so I mean, the air in Los Angeles, I've never seen it so clean. And I've lived here since 2008. And I mean, I lived in Ibiza and Berlin for like 3 years off and on, did the triangle, but it was crazy because I've never seen it like this ever. So I feel like Mother Earth is like, things just got way out of balance. And it wasn't like a mean thing. It's just like a balance thing. It's like it has to balance out. It just has to. And so I think and that's in so many ways. I feel like in music, I mean, from the conversations we've been having, I agree. It's going to go back to the local. It's going to go back to smaller parties. It's going to go back to that magic. And maybe Ibiza will return to what it once was, which in my opinion was a healing spiritual island, a place that you went to heal, to dance, to be in community. And I think like maybe this might be a shift that Ibiza has been waiting for, which is to go back to who it really is.
Yeah, I think so. It feels good. I mean, I'm just kind of, everything is so day by day, and I just trust that it's all going to work out. So, but it feels, the island feels so happy. I can't explain it, but it's just, and just like Dersu said about people in LA, it feels like a community. I don't know, it's like we're all coming back to ourselves in community and connecting with everyone. It's just, it feels good. Even though, but yeah, I'm just going to turn the light on. Hold on.
I love what you just said, Katie, though, about the idea of coming back to the community. I think we are seeing it like on a big scale, this feeling, the sentiment that people are saying like we've gone too big, and what's happened is like the Amazon has gotten too big, and everyone makes the comments about Bezos and blah blah blah, and like it's almost like the immediacy of our world expired, and so the idea of the farmers market, of like local produce, of really coming back to small markets, supporting our community, buying things local, that's amazing to think about that. And it's like the first time I've heard that said out loud, this idea of almost doing the same thing with the music community. And I don't know what that looks like, but maybe that's like a fun place to think about, like, you know, is there a secret to the future of music within like the consideration of the planet and of our sustainability as a human as human beings, you know, like, is there secrets to unlocking kind of the smaller party, or like, what does that look like? And I think if you got creative, we could start to almost think like, well, what does that mean for streaming? What does that mean for music production? Like, how is there a way that this lower impact could potentially unlock like the future for us? And I'm getting very fucking ethereal, but like, I don't know. I love the idea of maybe dissecting that and figuring out, you know, Kim, what you're saying is like kind of being directed by the earth, and some people are probably like logging off right now, but but I love this idea. Like, I think it's really powerful. Yeah.
I had this idea years ago that I'd like to share. It's instead of like, you know, a DJ popping around to like here, like 3 gigs one night, all of this lot, but you know, like in the olden days, let's say, someone that's delivering a message would travel through a country in a long time. So maybe they would go to Mexico for a month, and maybe like this DJ is known for being of this land, like in Berlin, like, you know, you're going to go to Berlin and you're going to see such and such DJ there. And then it's like a really big thing if they go to this other land, and everyone's got their own sounds from their lands and of where they live. And I don't know, this, and it's a lot slower, but longer, and you really take in the sound of the land as well. But yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I was just thinking about, you know, yesterday I went to the poppy reserves, like to the poppy fields in Lancaster, and there's so much space there and so many fields and so much desert. It almost feels like you're in Joshua Tree. And I was thinking like, wow, because we don't know what the travel restrictions are going to be. You know, I bought tickets to go to Barcelona in August. I don't even know, is that going to happen? Is it safe then? I mean, I don't know. So I'm just curious, like, you know, bringing it back to the local scene, I guess in your ideal worlds, like, let's just dream. Like, what does that look like for you guys? Like, what would you envision? For me, I would envision this like beachfront property in Malibu, and people on the beach where it's only a certain amount of people, and everybody like had these like circles where they could like dance at in only. I don't know. I'm just thinking, and also like just using the people who are local, but then it's like, how do you monetize that? And also I've thought about, if there was one thing that I would do for the next 20 years and not make any money at, what would that be? So I'm just curious. I just want to open it up for you guys if you have any ideas on, you know, I mean, obviously we need to all pay our rent, pay our bills, but like, what is it? What do you see? What do you feel like would be, what's going to happen? What's the ideal kind of space for dance parties and music?
I mean, I think it's going to be a while before we have kind of those bigger festivals. So we're definitely going to have those smaller clubs, those smaller parties. And I think there'll be a lot more focus on the local DJs, and, you know, those DJs kind of building up the sound of their own scene. Just like, you know, Kim was talking about, kind of that local sound. It's really going to come back, and I think a little bit stronger. I don't think we can escape that. You know, I don't think people are going to want to travel too much pretty soon. And also, I think we should really think about like why we are, you know, kind of fetishize in a way the like DJ from out of town, because back in the day, if you look at where everything started, you know, in Chicago, you would have you know, DJs play the whole night, and who were regular, like Ron Hardy at the Music Box. Like he would play the whole night, and you would come to the Music Box because of that style. Of course, there's like too many people involved nowadays to kind of have that vibe, but I think you know, there might be just these smaller parties popping up with those you know, 1 or 2 or 3 DJs leading that crew, kind of developing their own following. But yeah, it's really hard to say at this point how things will, you know, affect stuff. I have seen though that a lot of things are happening virtually now. If we talk about the now rather than the future, I've seen a lot of festivals popping up on virtual reality platforms. I've seen a festival happen on Minecraft, for instance. You know, people are getting really creative with that. Zoom parties have been happening, which have been pretty fun. I've attended a couple of them, and it's nice just to hear people and friends I haven't heard in a long time, just because we're geographically pretty separated. Just being able to hear them play, I think has been a really nice thing from all this. You know, I you know, the core friends of mine are really all from Boston, but since I moved to Atlanta, I kind of felt a little, you know, isolated from that, and I've missed the people over there. And it was nice that I mean, last week some of my pals in Boston threw like a fundraiser event for the club I used to have my party at, for the staff there. And it was just so nice to be able to kind of play in a way with all my friends again, and also kind of see people, not really see people, but really see people in the chat who I haven't, like, you know, spoken to in a while in that kind of environment. So yeah, I like these virtual parties.
There, the Suzanne Barch is on top. That one has been really, really fun in New York. Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I thought it'd be, since I'm in LA and there's so much technology here, I thought it'd be really cool, like, to have like a big kind of warehouse where you have like a circle and it has like rubber things on it. And so, and you put on these VR glasses and a DJ is playing and you're looking at all these crazy things and you're dancing. But if you feel that you're going outside of the circle, you have to back up. And then we have like people like making sure people aren't, you know, getting out of their circle and bumping into each other. I don't know what the dance music, I mean, I saw this like suit, I forgot what production company, someone here in LA made this suit where you could go rave and have a vape and they have a oxygen and drink. It's really crazy. But I'm just curious, like, what is a silver lining that you guys feel? Like, some of you have already answered that, but like, if you want to say maybe like a challenge and then like a silver lining. So a challenge for me is that I'm a very social creature. I need to dance with people. That's my church. I've been sober for a long time, but I need to be with people. I need to dance. And I love going to dancing all night, and I miss that connection. I'm like kind of going crazy. It's like solitary confinement in jails are like another level of punishment, right? For, you know, there's a reason why. And then the other part of this is really coming back into like, wow, all the special people have touched my life, and getting to connect with them and talk to them. And, you know, Biyun and I, man, I remember one New Year, she came to LA and we did like the spiritual dance party, like something that Kim would have like loved. We did Kundalini yoga and we did like energy healing, that we were dancing, and it was just so magical. And, you know, it's so cool. And I mean, like, there's been so many amazing times that I've had with my friends, and just getting to talk to them and connect and figuring out like, how do I bring more healing into dance music for me? So I'm just curious for you guys, if you want to just talk about maybe like a challenge and then something beautiful that's come out of this. I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I mean, I'll say one thing in regards to that. Again, I have one thing I've seen over the last couple of weeks for sure is, and it's something I've always said in regards to music production, you know, especially when I was working at Native Instruments, and, you know, you have these thousands of soft synths and tools and whatnot. And I always was very, very careful when I would give somebody this entire package to install in their computer, because I would always try to figure out a little bit like, what are you really trying to do? Right? Before I give you this, what are you trying to do? And most of the time, you know, my answer was, don't install all that shit, because with limitations comes creativity. You know, learn 2 or 3 things. Don't try to learn 20 of them. You know what I'm trying to say? And I think with this whole situation right now, and going back to the last couple of weeks, it's really forced a lot of the people and the artists in particular that we work with, including ourselves, to think a little bit more creatively. And also this whole sense of collaboration. I mean, this is also where the beauty of technology comes into play, right? I mean, you really can do a lot of amazing things with people without having to be in the same room. Now, I'm super old school. I mean, I actually stopped making music because for me, making records was all about being in a room with a bunch of people where the magic happens. You know, sitting in front of a computer and just doing, you know, sitting there with a mouse and a keyboard was never my thing. And that's probably, you know, one of the reasons why I stepped out of production work way back when. But the point is, I think there will be something positive that comes out of this. And I think you will see this sense of community and this, you know, Dan, what you were saying before about, you know, the local scenes kind of reemerging. You know, I believe that as well. You know, you know, going to clubs, sure, it's great to see all these different people. But, you know, if I think back to even when I moved to Berlin, for example, when was that? In 2006 or 2008, somewhere around that time. I mean, I remember being shocked that I could see all these amazing DJs in one place. That never happened in America. You know, you wouldn't be able to, those lineups were like, where else in the world do you see those lineups? You know, and throughout the years, that's just a common thing that happens anywhere. I can go to London, I can go to Ibiza, I can go to LA, you know, and pretty much see those same people everywhere. So, and I do believe that it's important for young talent, especially with our business as well. You know, we're not just managing a bunch of superstars. You know, one of the core kind of principles of our business was to nurture young talent, you know, and to take our experience from different principles and combine them so that we can actually give people a platform to cut through the noise and accelerate their careers to some extent. So, you know, situations like this, I think, bring you also closer together. You know, there is a byproduct of this in a holistic way. And I kind of, you know, I very much agree with what you said, Kim. You know, there's a trust, you know, there's a trust that you have to kind of give over, you know, to the universe and just surrender. You know, it's really a process of surrender. I think for more people than not, to say, okay, look, you know, you can either choose to be paranoid about everything, or you can choose to surrender and find new ways of communicating and cutting through and doing good things, you know? And hopefully maybe by slowing down a bit, you can even figure out what is it that really, you know, is your passion. You know, and especially like with the DJs, you know, you see this kind of hamster wheel that they're all, you know, you're kind of just put into. You never sit down and stop because you can. It's just a never-ending thing, and you know, it's very, very, very difficult for people to get out of that because of fear of all kinds of things, fear of remaining relevant, you know, blah, money, this, whatever. So I actually think that this might, you know, shake the tree a little bit. And hopefully, you know, we'll all try to, you know, connect with the positive things that come out of this and move forward to some extent. Now, obviously, there's a million things that are devastating. Again, the homeless thing in LA, very good friend of mine, Heidi Laden, you know, it's like my sister. She's posting pictures from Venice, and I'm just seeing all these homeless people, you know, I'm just like, what is going on? You know, never seen so many homeless people in LA than on this last trip I was there, you know, downtown and on the beach. And, you know, again, just seeing, you know, what's happening with them and no place, you know, there's so many crazy things that are happening as well in parallel to just the, you know, the restrictions that we're feeling that I think will also, you know, come to surface now. And I think, you know, but like anything, you know, the earth is kind of, you know, shedding and all this shit is kind of surfacing and we're now forced to deal with it, you know? So let's see. So back to your question, challenges. I think, yeah, the challenge will certainly be how do we, you know, short to midterm deal with the immediate issues, but I think long term, you know, hopefully there'll be some things that surface and we start talking about them and acting upon them as well.
100%. Definitely. I mean, everything has to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt and to be rebuilt even better. Dersu, what do you feel about this? You know, working for such a huge media company like Vice, like that's one of the platforms I feel like people look to see like, hey, what's happening? What are they writing about? You know, it's like DJ Mag, Vice, like in terms of like culture. And it's just, I'm just curious, like, what's the vibe over there? What are you guys facing challenge wise? And then personally, like, what do you feel like a silver lining is out of this?
Yeah, I think we Vice did something really powerful, which a lot of people like don't know. They never published about it, but it was something really beautiful that I saw happen, where they took anyone who was making over a certain amount of money, and they took their salaries and pushed them and moved them down. They got a salary cut, and then they moved those salaries down to keeping people on staff. And so it was almost like this, and it was a lot of people around the world stood in solidarity around this. Like, they were willing to take their salary cuts who were making more money and give it so that people weren't laid off. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I mean, I think, there's like been moments of silver lining that I've seen within the media industry. I think, we've had some of our like biggest months of all of record history. Everyone's online. So, I think there is like this community that's happening online. People are reading. There's a lot of news that's happening. I think that's like, in a way, the silver lining. And there's technology that's happening. There's very creative parties. There's yoga sessions. Like, we're all, I think, tapping into some of that. I will say, like, the sets I've played have been amazing to watch people delayed on their little grids dancing. And I know that they're in their houses and they're feeling the music. But it's not the same feeling. Like, I feel very drained after those sets. I don't get like this boost of energy that you do when you're live with a crowd and you get to connect with people. Like, it's hard to have, like, the energy almost bounces back off the screen and you're kind of in your own room. And when the set's over, I feel like sometimes even more lonely and tired. And so, like, that's been a struggle for me to feel like, digital is just, it's not there completely. Like, it's beautiful in so many ways. And I'm so grateful for even this conversation and getting to see your guys' faces. But yeah, that's been a struggle. I think, like, to summarize my sentiment, it's interesting, like, thinking about, talking about Berlin again, speaking to people that were there during the time of the wall, the restrictions were so severe, and the beauty and the creativity that came from that period of time of very, like, martial law to the almost extent, in the parts that were separated. And I think, like, I am very hopeful that there will be, like, in a way that we never have seen, some sort of creativity that comes out of this that could be revolutionary. And I don't know which direction it's going to be, or where it's going to go, but I wonder, like, is, the underground club, will that really become very underground? Will we start to see these parties pop up that are like with local talent and no one knows about it because we're in a situation where the governor has said, like, no parties, but, like, I don't know. And also, the one thing I will say, Nadia, who was our common connect, wrote a post on Facebook about this, like, amazing kind of rant about the industry, and it's sort of mirroring this idea of these billionaires and the big cats of the industry being very safe and kind of in their castles, where, like, the people on the ground are really struggling. And to me, it's like, that is a huge incentive and motivator for young, or not young, but like the smaller organizations, companies, like Andreas, like you have, and these smaller groups, to really figure out, like, can we do this shit on our own? Is there a way for us to break free from this system? In the same way that I think that we're being called to action as a giant community, in the same way, like, I really challenge us, like, can we do something very scary? And is there ways that we can untether ourselves? And it comes down to maybe smaller parties, but is there other creative ways that we can do this, where we can, I mean, is bartering something that could happen? Like, I have no idea. I want to figure out a way for us to survive without being tethered to this giant fucking machine. And I think that's kind of the state that I'm in right now, is like creatively trying to think about that. Yeah, so that is a silver lining, because there's thought and there's conversations like this happening. So thank you guys.
100%. And I feel like a lot of that is going to come from, because your outside world is a reflection of the inside. And so something that I've realized is that I'm trying to figure it out, when it's actually, the answer is to go within. And it's sometimes really hard. Like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do yoga and I'm going to meditate for an hour and I'm going to And at the very beginning of this quarantine, I was doing pretty good. But now it really is a struggle for me to, like, be self-disciplined. But I feel like we're going to get those answers by going within, by really getting quiet, really just looking inside and, letting the universe tell us. Kim, what's something that you've done consistently through this time to help mitigate the anxiety, to stay in the present moment? I'm just curious, since you're you are a healer, and I'm saying, like, what do you do right now to stay sane?
Lots of yoga. So I teach yoga as well, and my complete initial first thought was to go into service. So I just suggested, I mean, I know everyone's doing it, but to do Zoom yoga classes, and it's been my absolute savior. And I'm connecting with friends that I haven't met, seen in ages, and then we're all come together. So like it's like every morning, and we're setting our intention, and it really helps me to be with people. I'm not the best person to practice yoga on my own. I'm really good when I'm with people, because I feed off the energy as well, and I still get the buzz when I'm connecting with everyone, and I feel really good for the day. And then and I'm doing all the classic things, like I've just planted my first garden, learning new skills, and I'm just going within, and I am being very quiet. I also have kittens, so I've been hanging out with kittens. I've been on my own with kittens basically, so that's been the main thing. I think going back to what the guys were saying as well, is Cat Lady in the Hills. I think going back to what the guys were saying as well, I think a really good thing that will happen out of this is creativity. Of every shitty thing, so I don't know if I can swear, but like an amazing music comes out of it. Like the Detroit sound comes out of complete fighting to get through there, and all these guys were like getting their synths and getting their music instruments, and that's how they fought, was to make music through whatever their consciousness was going through. And I feel like this consciousness that we're going through now, a new sound needs to happen. I know that I haven't heard anything exciting in years in dance music, so I'm hoping that some squirrels are right now sitting down making some wicked new music, and then that will figure itself out. Oh, you got a cat! Yay!
Yeah, this is Mr. Potato. Say hi. Hello.
Hi!
Something else I've been hearing a lot of is that music is actually in dance music especially, we're shifting more into like, instead of producing these bangers and these big, big sounds, more into like an emotional, something you could listen to at home. And I'm just curious, like, as far as like music production and creativity, what do you guys see, like, as far like the future of like music making and what kind of sounds? Like personally, I feel like something I've been working on for a long time that I'm trying to really hone into is taking the crystal bowls, and I have do you remember, Alex, who I introduced you to Alex.
My crystal bowl's here. So yeah.
He brought the crystal bowls.
This is my crystal bowl room.
Amazing.
Journeys on Instagram with them, but I think healing in electronic music is one of the most amazing things. And it's just bringing that intention to it. Sorry, I got excited then. I actually made a track with crystal bowls a few years ago, which I could send you.
Yes, please do, because I think like that kind of music, like that, the very like kind of emotional, like feeling kind of music's going to come out. I just saw Dubfire. He just did today a reggae mix, which I never thought that he would do that. But what do you guys feel about like where music is going in dance music, and what direction?
I do hope it gets more emotional and we get fewer generic dance floor bangers that have been, appearing in the top 100. I mean, I feel like people actually start appreciating music for what it is, which is the language that expresses something that we can't say with words. And I hope that producers go back to it instead of thinking about how they can monetize a sound or the track, or how, I mean, it's gone so capitalist, like just far on the deep end in terms of just people just not paying attention to how precious music is as a tool to express something that you're feeling. And it's kind of, I hope that this period of time becomes kind of a balancing act for that, to now that there isn't a drive to constantly be on the road. I mean, you can't be on the road, so you have to be inside in your studio if you're actually producing music at this time, and you have to think about, okay, how am I processing what I'm going through, and let that come out in what you're making. And I hope more producers really focus on that, because, you know, it's about time we kind of return back to the deeper meaning of what music should be. So, yeah.
100%. And I really love also what Dersu and Andres, like what you guys were talking about in terms of, it's like coming back into like, okay, let's get really creative here. And I love the idea of like the smaller artists finally having a platform, the smaller companies finally coming out, like it's coming back, right? It's like everything got so big that it's like coming back to like the humanity. And there was another promoter who, he didn't want to say this on the you know, on the show, but basically that, you know, it has become very cookie cutter and very McDonald's. You know, you're throwing a techno festival, it's the same people. You're doing a house festival, it's the same people. And I love those people, like, don't get me wrong, but back to like what we were talking about, you know, if you would go to Chicago back in the day, you would see these people. You know, if you would go to LA, it'd be like Doc Martin. If you would go to like, I mean, Berlin, you know, just the local talent, Alien, or, you know, it's just like the local people, the local talent. So I'm just curious, like, you know, having said that, who do you guys want to see? Like, what companies do you want to see? What artists do you want to see, like, get more of a platform?
I mean, one thing that, and it goes back to the point I was making earlier about risk taking. Okay, a lot of these artists on the bills that you're talking about, you know, who are also friends for many years, are also people that are in a position to also pull young talent up, but more importantly, also diversify their own repertoire. Okay, and this is where you've really seen how the industry has dictated what you play or what you make, because, you know, ultimately promoters are in the business of selling tickets. And when you're in the business of selling tickets and you're getting booked and you're expected to play a certain sound, you end up just in this vacuum, you know? And I've often had these like insanely long conversations, very late nights over a lot of wine. Why you finally, you know, why is it that a lot of artists reach a particular plateau where they have influence and they're not using it? I've actually been pretty confused by that, because, I mean, you know, Andrew Weatherall, who sadly passed recently, you know, I never forget, you know, just as an example, I don't even remember what years this was, but it was at Watergate and it was prime time, you know, Berlin style, 6 a.m. in the morning. And, you know, everybody's pilled up and whatnot. And this guy just decides to drop some rockabilly records. And everybody went nuts because it was just good, you know? It was different and it was fresh and nobody expected that. And maybe you have to be a certain type of person and selector to do that, fair enough, right? But that always stuck with me. And I just always thought to myself, I would love to go out and be surprised again, a little bit more, you know? And in recent years, it's really been a little bit, you know, sterile in many ways. And of course, you know, and look, I'm jaded. I've been in this business a long time, and, you know, we've all part and parcel to that kind of problem to a certain extent. But I do think that, you know, there's a responsibility, and I hope that these, you know, maverick people can actually now use this opportunity and time to really, you know, pave the way for young talent, because that's what they should be doing. There's enough to go around for everybody, and there's so many talented people. And, you know, I do miss going out and seeing new faces on the bill that somebody's discovered through their label or through the demos they've been sent or whatever. It's, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of that, I think, that I hope will kind of reset itself now. I know there's a lot of talk, you know, we talk all about this kind of stuff, but there needs to be a little bit of action as well. And I definitely think, you know, going back to, you know, your question in regards to creativity, yeah, I do think, I do hope actually that people will kind of search a little bit more for making music that has depth and meaning, you know. And again, there's plenty of people, I think, that want to do those type of records, but again, because of, you know, their thing that they just happen to fall in, there's not a lot of bandwidth for them to maneuver. And these kind of situations do allow you to reflect on that. So again, I think that, I'm hoping that's the positive, you know, takeaway from all this, that there will be more conversations around this beyond just the community and localization, but getting people to actually respond to issues that things that we've had to change for a long time in the scene. And I think now, you know, is really, there will be a shift that comes out of it. So I'm pretty certain about it.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any thoughts on it?
I feel like that's been pretty well said. Yeah, I'm inspired, definitely. I think there's a lot of different people that, some of us are doing very well right now and have jobs, and we could potentially lose them, and then other people will maybe have jobs, and it's like the community, I think we're only as strong as that community. And I think maybe there is a way for us to look at like ways that we can support our smaller artists that we've, you know, maybe they aren't the giant artists that you necessarily want to go see as a headliner, but like there's the smaller DJs and producers who you know potentially could be really struggling right now. And I think also just like checking in with each other in a big way is super important, which I feel like I've seen a lot of that happening, you know.
Yeah, I mean, kind of one of the ways I've seen that happen definitely has been, I mean, through the recent Bandcamp Day that happened. Like, all artists were, you know, I was buying a ton of records from friends, and friends were buying stuff from me, and you could see like everyone's just helping to put food on each other's tables by buying each other's art. And I thought that was really, really beautiful to see. And also, at least in the States, I've seen a lot of live streams or Zoom parties where they put up the artist's Venmo and PayPal and whatever, and people will donate if they can to the artist to help support them at this time, you know. So yeah, I feel like there's communities forming around those kinds of avenues, and I feel like, okay, why can't this be like the norm even outside of this situation, you know? So
100%. Even, you know, for what we were going back to the point of that, if I was in the position as somebody who was, you know, a legend, I would have like several different DJs under me, and then, you know, they would go out and DJ, and maybe, I don't know, or they would go out and make music, and maybe like I would take a percentage of like what it is they're, you know, making, and then I would champion them. And then, you know, instead of one stream of revenue of, you know, just touring or selling your music, you have like 10, you know, and you're constantly putting these DJs up. So, and even like smaller, you know, marketing companies, or, you know, whatever companies, it's like maybe you're like this big company, and then you're like championing these other like 10 smaller companies, and bringing, you know, taking a revenue of that, whatever it is. I definitely think for a long time that the revenue model of how the funds are allocated in dance music and everything around that needs to be restructured. And it's I mean, some DJs, I mean, I know, because like I have friends at CAA, but some of these DJs make $1 million for one night in Vegas, or 750,000. I mean, and it's just like, it blows my mind, you know. It's not that to say amen, God bless everybody, but I just feel like it needs to, it's come, the earth, the world, the universe, the people, everybody's like, let's restructure, you guys. This is like not sustainable. So let's restructure. But thank you so much. I know we're coming up on an hour, a little over an hour, and thanks so much, you guys, for being on this again. I just want to kind of go around the room, and maybe like before we close out, if you want, you know, any closing thoughts, or if you know, you want to leave us with anything, that would be awesome. If anybody has something to say. Kim.
I pulled a card. So I pulled a cosmic card, and I got the Great Gathering, which is really good. And it says, it's all coming together, intuitive hits, soul tribe. It's everyone coming together. So I think it's good. I think
Right.
everyone's going to cosmic.
Very cool.
I think.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
can take a picture of the meaning as well and post it somewhere, but it's good. I think we're all getting more magical.
Yeah. I feel like the conversation has definitely shifted. I mean, this is so cliche and it's so oversaid, but I'll just reiterate that like the what is important has like completely been transformed in every conversation you have with friends. It's like I couldn't be more excited about that. And even this conversation, like it's crazy. I get this jolt of it's funny because it's like against everything that we were just talking about. It's like less travel, and then part of me's like I want to go to Ibiza and I want to go to Berlin and meet you in person. What the hell? And so, but I think yeah, like man, I miss that connection, and this has been I've gotten a little bit of that energy from just getting a chance to chat with you guys. So I just want to thank you so much, Katie, for throwing this together, and all of you for spending your time. And yeah, I can definitely I feel that there's a really positive outcome, and my brain has started to think about some of the stuff that got the questions that got posed, and so I really want to thank you guys. It's such an honor. Yeah, hope to meet you and give you a hug at some stage.
Yeah, definitely.
Likewise.
I'm gonna put
Yeah.
you guys. I'll put an email together and put us all in touch because I don't know about you guys, but Kim, I want to come to your Zoom yoga, please.
I do one evening, which is your morning, and it all closes with a crystal bowl meditation. I'll send you the link. I'll send you the info. I'm going to do crystal bowls in 20 minutes if you want to on Instagram.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah.
View.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, really.
Thank you,
This is
Katie.
great, and lovely to meet you all, of course. And I'm sure we'll see each other. And Katie, make sure you connect us. I have a flight booked to Ibiza, and I have a flight booked to LA. So let's see.
Hopefully, yeah.
More will be revealed. More will be revealed. View, do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, just on a personal level, I hope all of us take this, because we've been talking about balance, balance in nature and balance in terms of how things are, industry wise, but also like your own internal balance of why do you push yourself so hard to do a certain thing, why you're always going and going and going and going, rather than taking time to really sit back and reflect. And I think many people are now being forced to do that, whether they like it or not. And I hope that gets us really asking the more important questions of why we're even making music to begin with, and why we're even doing what we're doing, regardless, to begin with. And yeah, so.
Absolutely. Self-reflection. Yes.
Love that.
Andres, do you have any closing statements?
Yeah, I actually share that sentiment as well. I think, again, I really am trying very, very hard to choose to look at this in the most positive way. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty, around us business-wise, but I think it is a time where we've all slowed down to kind of rethink. And I think I innately kind of feel that something positive is going to come out of this. And it's also given us a chance to connect, with all kinds of different people. I mean, this platform, what you've done is fantastic. I have 2 new friends now, so that's already a good start, right? Yeah, and again, I think we're all, we're all blessed and fortunate. So let's help others where we can, and spread the love, and love will win.
Amen.
Amen.
And to close out, I'm going to go around the room and say one word for your week, your intention for this week. We'll start with the ladies first. My intention for this week is innovation. Bune?
Give me one more round or one more.
We'll go to Kim.
It's the full moon in Scorpio on Wednesday, Thursday, which is under transition, so I'm going to say transformation.
Dersu.
I think opening. Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, so there you go.
My intention would have to be organization because I need a lot of it right now to get through the next month.
Yeah, and mine would probably be like finding a bit of focus and also some peace, because external stuff's causing a lot of anxiety, and I feel like just recently things have started to calm down internally, but of course externally things keep changing, and that riles up a lot of anxious feelings. So just trying to find that peace.
100%. I'm also an empath, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
I have to be like, you know what? It's gonna be okay, and this too shall pass. Thank you again so much, you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time. I love all of you guys, and I just thank you. And I just, I will send you good vibes and safe vibes, and please tell everybody, that I say hello, all the people that I know, we all know in common, and just thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you
likewise.
all.
Thank you,
Lovely to see
Katie.
you.
Lovely to see you and lovely to meet you.
Lovely
Yes,
to meet
lovely
you
to
guys.
meet you.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
Yeah.
Connect us, Katie.
I will. Be
Yes.
safe.
Hasta luego.
Ciao.